Good evening. Welcome to the May 16th meeting of the Yakima School Board. Before we start into our extensive program this evening, I'd like to remind anybody in our audience that needs interpretation services. We have those available. You can get devices from Barb. We'd also like to thank our agency that has provided those services this year, Andromeda Interpreting, and a special thanks to Patty Carrion, who has done most of the bulk of the work, interpreting work for us this year. If you are tuning in live stream, there is a Spanish live streaming link to tune into interpretation services, and you can find that on our website. Also, if you're just wanting live streaming for yourself, regardless of language, you can find the link on our webpage under Find It Fast. And all school board meetings are also taped, so you can look at them on the YSD YouTube channel later on. There are two options this evening for public comment. The first option is for comment on agenda items only, and the second option, closer to the end of the meeting, is for any other topic. There are two papers you need to sign if you would like to speak tonight. There's a sign-in form and a guidelines form, so that we don't need to read all those guidelines to you. You read them on your own and then sign off, and those are also available out front on the table. Barb, would you call the roll, please?
Director Beckett?
Here.
Director Rice?
Here.
Vice President Villanueva?
Here.
President Walker?
Here.
And Director Navarro Jr. is en route.
Yes. He's here. We can count him
Present,
present.
counted for.
Next up, we have the Pledge of Allegiance, who will be led by Director Beckett.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today, the schools of the Yakima School District rest on the ancestral lands of the 14 confederated tribes and bands of the Yakima Nation.
The people of the Yakima Nation inhabited more than 12 million acres.
Across Adams, Benton, Chelan, Douglas, Franklin, Grant, Kittitas, Cliticat, and Yakima counties.
Today we honor the Native people who are tied to the land through history, legends, and cultures.
We acknowledge their descendants who live in the world today.
We thank the caretakers of this land who have lived here and continue to live here since time immemorial.
An acknowledgement is a simple, powerful way to show respect.
And a step toward correcting the stories and practices that erase Indigenous peoples' history and culture.
It also honors the truth.
As a school district, we'll continue to build upon our relations with the Yakima Nation.
Thank you, students. We'd also like to, at this time, to have a moment of silence to honor former district employees who may have passed away recently. Tonight, we're honoring Seth Whitehead, who was a member of the district paint crew for many, many years. If you want to see a detailed obituary, that's available on our website. If a retired or current employee or a current student has passed away and is not honored here this evening, then please contact the district office and share that name and information with the superintendent's office, and we'll include them in a future meeting. So for now, take a moment of silence honoring Seth Whitehead, please. Thank you. We have a lot of recognitions this evening, so Um, Fasten your seatbelt and get ready for the ride. Okay, first up, there are a few recognitions that we honored in a previous meeting that were missed. One of them is for WIAA State Speech Championship. Karen Miller from Eisenhower High School placed 5th in that championship. Is Karen here this evening? Okay. Also, we'd like to read the names of the Excellence in Education Awards that were presented in a separate meeting or a separate celebration, but we'd like to honor the winners again tonight. And the first one is the Shining Star Award recipients, and these are for classified employees who consistently demonstrate outstanding work performance, exemplary leadership, collaboration, and dedication to the district and our mission every day. And those awards went to Erica Aparicio, Community Health Worker at the Health and Wellness Education Unit, Jacqueline De Jesus Lopez, a paraeducator at Adams Elementary, Amy Franco, the ASB and Athletics Secretary at Washington Middle School, Kirsten Liebeck, the data specialist at Nob Hill Elementary, and Norma Lisa Torres Strom, office manager at Hoover Elementary. If you are here this evening, if I just read your name and you're here this evening, can you come up and circle through and we'll shake your hand? And we have, I believe we have a photo too. Are any of those folks here this evening? Stay up here. We're going to get another picture, all right? Thank you so much for your work. Should we? Okay, we'll get the rabbit ears behind you. Also, we would like to recognize this year's Crystal Apple Award recipients. These are the 6 winners out of, I believe it was 15 nominations this year. The winners were, well, let me give you the criteria for the award. It's excellence in education, encourage creative and quality instruction, encourage the development of a positive learning environment, encourage excellent educators to remain in education as a career, provide an incentive for individual initiative on the part of educators and those who contribute in a substantive way to the improvement of education in the Yakima School District. And this year's winners were Lori Benoit, grade 9 career choice at Eisenhower High School, Heather Kessler, librarian at Eisenhower High School, Noemi Moreno, dual language kindergarten teacher at Martin Luther King Jr. Elementary School, Sonia Perez, school nurse at Washington Middle School, Erica Vesta, academic specialist at McClure Elementary School, and Doug Kaplicki, principal at Adams Elementary School. Are any of these distinguished folks here this evening? Please come up. Congratulations again. Yeah, thank you so much for your hard work. Thank you so much. Last, in our recognitions portion of the program, we are going to honor our retirees. And what we will do, each of us will read names of certain ones. If you'll come up and cycle through, and we have plaques for you. So you will receive your plaque, and then at the very end, we'd like to take a picture in the back, and we'll take a 5-minute break to gather for that picture. So after we recognize all our retirees. Yeah. So it looks like I have Ryan's up first.
Thank you, President Walker. Good evening, everybody. To begin with this evening, we'd like to recognize retiree Sandra Lennox, who served our district from 2019 to 2022. Please join us in congratulating Sandra Lennox. Next up, we're congratulating Mr. Mark Washam. Mark began his education career after graduating from Lewis and Clark College in 1978, teaching 7th and 8th grade at Butte Creek School District in Mount Angel, Oregon. From there, he transitioned to founding a private Christian school where he served as teacher and leader until 1984. Mark then returned to the high school he graduated from to teach for 2 years at Colton High School in Colton, Oregon. In 1986, he and his family moved to Yakima, where he taught and served as secondary principal at Westside Christian School, now Riverside Christian School, until 1995. From there, Mark taught at Christensen Academy in Rubio, Venezuela for 2 years. Returning to Yakima in 1998, Mark then served in various ministry positions at the Yakima Alliance Church, Camp Gormley, and the Yakima Union Gospel Mission. Mark returned to teaching full-time in August 2016 and has taught Washington State history to 7th graders at Wilson Middle School for the past 7 years. Mark has served almost 45 years in teaching or serving children and youth in a multitude of settings and capacities. He ends this chapter of life full of gratitude and innumerable positive memories of students and colleagues. Please join me in congratulating Mark Washam. We would also like to congratulate retiree Cheryl Engel, who served our district from 2015 to 2023. Please join me in congratulating Cheryl. Our next retiree is Kristen Fisher. Kristen taught kindergarten at Barge Lincoln Elementary for 4 years and spent 6 years as librarian and library teacher in the Barge Lincoln Library. She served our district from 2013 to 2023. Please join me in congratulating Kristen Fisher. We'd like to honor Ed Cunnington. Ed began his teaching career in the fall of 1985 in the East Valley School District. During his 27 years with East Valley, most of his responsibility was the district's band program. Ed's high school and middle school bands became well respected over the years, routinely receiving superior ratings at regional band contests. While at East Valley, Ed's high school band traveled twice to Southern California for Disney Magic Music Days workshops, and in 2005 spent a week touring Honolulu, Hawaii and surrounding areas. His high school band also was one of only a few small high schools invited to participate in the Central Washington University, Go Wildcats, Wind Ensemble Festival. Over the years, Ed has had numerous students qualify for the state solo and ensemble contest and has had several students go on to study music at the college level. Ed is now in his 11th year teaching at Wilson Middle School, where he currently teaches band, choir, and orchestra. All 3 of the groups received superior ratings at adjudications this school year. Ed served on the Washington Music Educators Executive Board from 2010 to 2012 and served a 6-year term on the Yakima Valley Music Educators Board from 2004 to 2010. Ed was selected to be a member of the Washington Music Educators Association Hall of Fame at the 2014 WMEA conference. Ed continues to serve as a guest conductor and clinician for festivals throughout the state of Washington. He served our district from 2012 to 2023. Please join me in congratulating Ed Cunnington. The Yakima School District would like to honor and thank Allison Erickson, who served our district from 2007 until 2023. Please join me in congratulating Allison Erickson. We'd like to honor Elizabeth Fear. Elizabeth was hired as a para in August of 2006 at Nob Hill School. She enjoyed those years working with the students and teachers. She learned a lot from so many teachers that she worked with as the students as well. She will miss them as well as the paras. She also worked with the patrol for 12 years. It was an amazing job and the patrollers were great to work with, and she misses them tremendously. She served our district from 2006 to 2023. Please join me in congratulating Elizabeth Fear. Congratulations. We'd like to honor Gloria Hernandez. Gloria started her teaching career before she graduated. She taught Spanish and ESL at YVCC and community schools in Ellensburg and completed her student teaching at Eisenhower, then graduated from Central Washington University, go Wildcats, in 1991. She taught at OIC as a credit recovery teacher and taught at Wahluke School District as a bilingual specialist for 12 years. In 2001, she relocated to Texas and taught English language development at San Antonio Independent School District for 4 years. She joined the Yakima School District as a Gear Up coordinator and later became the district's bilingual specialist. She was blessed to join the Adams Elementary family as an ELD teacher, from where she will be retiring. She served our district from 2005 to 2023. Please join me in congratulating Gloria Hernandez.
Next, we have Leslie Mahoney. Leslie began her professional career in the fall of 1986 in the private sector in sales. She worked for iMagnin, the Gallo Winery, and Nike in Portland, Oregon. Upon moving to Yakima, she stayed home and raised her 3 children for 10 years. After receiving her master's in teaching from Heritage University, she was hired on August 31st, 2005 as a 5th grade teacher at Whitney Elementary in the Yakima School District. Her first year there was my last year at Whitney. Whitney is where she planted herself and stayed in the same room and grade level for the last 18 years. Leslie is retiring after 18 years with the Yakima School District and looks forward to enjoying her passions of gardening, travel, and watercolor painting. Yeah, Whitney was a great place, wasn't it? Next, we have Lori Benoit. Lori began her career in education as a sign language interpreter for the Highland School District in 1996. From 2000 to 2005, she focused her attention on preschool students and children with special needs, opening her own preschool and childcare facility. In the fall of the 2004-2005 school year, Lori was hired on as the ASL instructor at Eisenhower High School, where she has spent most of her career in the instruction of ASL, ASB leadership, and ninth grade career choices. Lori Benoit. We now have Lori Heilman, who served the district from 2003 to 2023. Is Lori here this evening? You don't have a bio. Next up, it breaks my heart to lose this employee, as it does to lose many. We have Colleen Kaluzny. Colleen began her career in 1986, teaching music, first grade, and then kindergarten for the Natchez School District. While pursuing her master's degree in counseling, she worked with children in another capacity as family life coordinator for Providence Health System and early childhood education instructor at Yakima Valley Community College, and as a licensed mental health therapist. After completing her ESA certification in 2001, Colleen joined the Yakima School District as school counselor for students at Gilbert, Ridgeview, and then Nob Hill. She will retire from her happy place on the Hill after serving 27 years in public education. Colleen Kaluzny. Next, we have Eric London, 2002 to 2023. Is Eric here this evening? Don't see Eric. I'm going to be in tears by the end of my section. Next up, we have Nancy Lust. And this isn't in the bio, but Nancy Lust was on my first volleyball team, varsity volleyball team, coaching at Eisenhower High School. And she was on the varsity for 4 years and was an incredible leader on our team. So it was wonderful to see one of my former players be a teacher in our district. So Nancy attended Eisenhower High School and played volleyball, graduating in 1980. After a brief career as a computer programmer for IBM, she pivoted toward education and returned to Yakima to do her student teaching at Davis under Tom O'Brien. Upon earning her certificate, she worked as a substitute teacher and then joined the faculty at Prosser High School, where she taught social studies for 3 years. She left Prosser to pursue her master's in history at WSU and returned to YSD again as a substitute while she worked on her thesis. In 2001, Nancy was hired at Eisenhower to teach social studies and enjoyed working with 3 of her former social studies teachers from high school, Bonnie Scoggins, Paul Rogers, and Carol Mills. Nancy and Carol worked tirelessly to develop an integrated current world problems course, economics, and civics curriculum for seniors. Team teaching with a dedicated partner like Carol and later Earl Henderson was one of her most rewarding experiences in teaching. Nancy also served as advisor to the Environmental Club, where she shared her passion for caring for the earth. In 2018, Nancy took a position teaching at the Ridgeview Group Home. She loved working at Ridgeview, where she could provide one-on-one support for each of her students, teach multiple subjects, and bring her dog to work with her. I understand that too. Nancy has enjoyed being part of the Stanton family and very much appreciates the work done by the DCYF staff, from whom she learned a great deal about trauma-informed education and the value of dialectical behavior therapy. Working at Ridgeview Group Home fulfilled a long-held fantasy of teaching in a one-room schoolhouse. Every teacher should be so lucky. And we were so lucky to have Nancy Lust. Is she here this evening? Yes, she is. Last up for me, we have Joanne Delp. Joanne began her professional career as a substitute speech-language pathologist for the Yakima School District in 1985. In the fall of 1985, she was employed as an SLP at the Yakima Tribal School and Tribal Head Start Centers in Toppenish, Wapato, and White Swan. She joined the Toppenish School District in 1987. For the next 13 years, she provided speech and language therapy to children from birth to 21 years of age. In 2000, she came back to Yakima School District and worked with preschoolers at multiple Head Start centers and daycares for 1 year. She then transferred to Roosevelt Elementary, where she remained for 22 years. Joanne will retire with 38 years of service. I hope you trained somebody to replace you. Okay.
Next, we'd like to honor Stacy Luck. Stacy has served in leadership positions in Yakima School District for the last 23 years. She began as an assistant principal at Eisenhower High School in 2000 and served as principal of Eisenhower High School for 11 years. In 2008, Stacy won awards as Washington State Principal of the Year and NASSP National Principal Finalist. A highlight for Stacy was a passage of a bond for a new Eisenhower High School and the opportunity to provide leadership oversight during the design, build, and opening of the new school. Stacy moved to Central Services in 2014, and where she has served as the Executive Director of Talent and Performance Management and later as Executive Director of Safety and Security. Stacy is retiring as the Assistant Superintendent of Operations. Stacy served as a teacher coach, athletic trainer, and athletics and activities director. Earlier in her career, she has served 38 years in public education. Stacy would like to thank the Yakima School District and its board of directors for their support during her career, and is proud to have had the opportunity to serve the students, parents, and staff in the Yakima School District. Next, we'd like to honor Debbie McLean. Debbie began her career with the Yakima School District in 1991 as a paraprofessional. She worked at various schools in this position until 2000, when she began teaching kindergarten at Roosevelt Elementary. During her teaching career, Debbie earned a master's degree in ESL and became a certified GLAD trainer. She is now retiring with 32 years of educational service. Next is Carolee Thomason. Carolee began her teaching career in 2000 as a general education teacher at MLK. She taught for 8 years at MLK within the Magnet Strand and was a Crystal Apple nominee. She moved to Roosevelt Elementary to teach for the next 15 years. Carolee will retire on June 30th, 2023 with 23 years of service. Next, we have Sue Allen. Sue began her career in the fall of 1997 with a long-term sub-position at the Eisenhower High School preschool in the fall and a long-term sub-position at Wilson Middle School in the spring. In the fall of 1998, she began teaching full-time at Wilson Middle School, where she taught special education reading, writing, and math in the 6th grade resource room. She taught there for 5 years and then moved to Lewis and Clark Middle School, where she also taught special education reading, writing, and math in the 7th grade resource room for the next 20 years. Sue is retiring on June 15th with nearly 25 years of service. Next, we have Willie Turner. Willie was an employee of Yakima School District from 1994 to 2022. Next, we'd like to honor Brian Dennis. Brian started with the Yakima School District in September of 1992 in the custodial department as a substitute. Brian was hired full-time at Eisenhower High School in March of 1994. In August of 1997, Brian began at Davis High School as the night custodian, and in 1998 moved to the day custodian, where he finished his career. Brian began running the score clocks for Davis football, basketball, and baseball teams, which he looks forward to continuing in his retirement. Brian enjoyed his time with the staff and students he met during his career. So many stories he laughs about and memories he smiles about.
So I'll continue. I just wanted to say it's indeed an honor and a privilege to be able to honor all the retirees. I do remember way back in the day, Mr. Smith, he had a great impact in my life. He was my PE teacher and track coach. And part of why I'm here today is everything that he poured into me as an educator. So I just want to congratulate all of you that are here today. So I just want to start off with, I think it's Bonet, Michael Bonet. We do not have a bio, but he did retire with 30 years of service in education. How about an applause for Michael? Next is Eleanor Garza, and she retired with 30 years of service in education. How about an applause for Ms. Garza? And the next person I have to say, served as a role model for me, but for countless and countless students and other staff and people in our community. And we're very fortunate to have her in our district, and that is none other than Sharon Harris. Sharon began her career in 1989 as a vocational guidance specialist at Eisenhower High School. Please come forward, yes. After earning her teaching certificate, she taught at Elms Elementary for 7 years. In 2001, Mrs. Harris became principal of the Discovery Lab School and remained in that position for 6 years. She spent 1 year as an assistant principal for the School of Arts and then returned to Eisenhower High School as assistant principal until 2017. Just a little bit more on Sharon's. Mrs. Harris will retire from her position as assistant principal of Stanton Academy after more than 33 years of service to the Yakima School District. Congratulations, Mrs. Harris. I know Coach Harris is happy as well because he'll get to spend more time with the missus. Next, we have Kathy Thomas. Let's see. So Kathy, while her father wanted her to use Kathleen to acknowledge her Irish heritage, but she chose Kathy. Kathy began her teaching career at George Rogers Clark Middle School in Vincennes, Indiana in 1978 as a middle school physical education teacher and coach for middle school girls basketball and volleyball. In addition, Kathy coached, maybe we'll have to call her Kathleen, right, in honor of her father, coached girls high school track. After moving to Yakima, she was hired at Gilchrist Group Home, helping teenage girls develop their social and emotional skills. She was then promoted to assist with a new program called Crossroads to help students with social and emotional concerns increase their positive behaviors. Elle Harding was the classroom teacher, increasing the students' academic skills. It was there that Kathleen met Karen Campbell. And as they talked, she told Karen that she was a certificated school teacher in Indiana. Karen suggested she apply to the Yakima School District. During her time at Davis, Kathy was a Crystal Apple Award recipient. Prior to COVID, she was a coach for the Special Olympics athletes, and she plans to return as a volunteer coach. Kathy has had the privilege of working with two amazing individuals assisting her in her classes. She would like to acknowledge J.T. Statler and J.R. Washington. She would also like to thank all her co-workers, especially the kitchen and custodial staff, who have always been available to keep the students fed and the classrooms clean. The Davis administrative staff are top-notch. How about applause for that one? All right? We got great administrators in the district. She would also like to thank the CTE staff for all their assistance as she traveled across the country to support her Skills USA students who competed in regional, state, and national competitions over the years. Stop by and check out the Skills USA medallion, third in the nation, located in the Davis main office. Kathy Thomas. Cheryl Tucker did not receive a bio, but she will retire with 32 years of experience. Cheryl Tucker. John Acegueda? Okay, sorry. Well, come on up, John. Well, I read about you. We boast about you a little bit. John was hired in the Yakima School District in 1991 after teaching for a decade in California. He was there for the opening of the new Adams Elementary and moved to Washington Middle School, where he helped with the design and opening of that school. He spent 33 years in the Yakima School District and a whopping 42 years teaching in all. He taught mainly special education during the time, finishing up at Wilson in the resource room. John was lucky to work with many fine people serving the Yakima community and making a difference in the lives of our students and their families. John. And Deborah Gordon also did not submit a bio, but she will retire with 33 years of education experience. Congratulations to Deborah.
Rich Kloster. Rich began teaching at Davis High School and the Yakima Skills Center in January of 1990. He taught graphics and printing at both schools for 18 years. In 2005, Rich became a full-time graphics teacher at Davis. He has been involved in student leadership organization, Skills USA or TSA, throughout his career. Rich will retire in June after 33 plus years of teaching. Rich Kloster. Hi, Rich. Thanks for everything you've done. Helen Paganelli. Helen went to Central Washington University, go Wildcats. If I need to help Ryan with those. From 1980 to 1984 to achieve her Bachelor of Arts degree in elementary education. She started her teaching career in 1995 at Hera Elementary in the Mount Adams School District. She taught first grade for 5 years there while working on her master's degree. She completed her degree in elementary education with a reading specialist endorsement. She was then hired by the Yakima School District in June of 1990 at Hoover Elementary as a first grade teacher. She taught there many, many years as a first, second, and third grade teacher. She transferred to Martin Luther King Jr. Elementary as a second grade teacher for a few years. Second grade was her favorite grade to teach. From there, she ended up at Ridgeview Elementary and taught second grade for several years. This last academic year, the 22-23 year, she as the reading intervention specialist teacher, a job which she loved. Along the way, she had worked with many wonderful teachers, and in fact, quite a few have become her close personal friends. She is grateful to the Yakima School District for her employment, of which most of her teaching career occurred. She is also looking forward to subbing in the future. Helen Paganelli. Thank you for everything you've done for our kids. We'd also like to recognize Patricia T. Garcia, who worked for us from 1989 to 2023. Is Patricia here? Please give her a round of applause. Cheryl Hallenbach worked for the district from 1988 to 2023. Judy Harris. After teaching junior and senior high school special education at the tribal school in the Yakima Nation for the first 5 years, Judy was hired in August of 1985 by the Yakima School District. She taught K-2 special education for 5 years at Broadway, which is where I met her. Later rebuilt and renamed Ridgeview Elementary. Judy transitioned to a readiness first grade position at Hoover, then taught second grade for 4 more years there. She moved to Nob Hill, then Gilbert, staying 5 years at each location. Finally, she settled at Whitney, where she has been for 18 years. Spending most of her career teaching second and third grades, Judy is retiring after 44 years of joyful teaching. Thank you for everything that you've done. Judy's plans include reading for pleasure, traveling, gardening, and playing tennis. And last but certainly not least, Dave Chaplin. Dave's career at the Yakima School District began in 1982 as an assistant football coach for Eisenhower High School. His teaching career started in 1983 at Wilson Middle School and Whitney Elementary as a physical education teacher. For the remainder of the 1980s and early 90s, he taught elementary physical education as an itinerant PE teacher at Gilbert, McKinley, McClure, MLK elementary schools. When Dave started teaching at Barge Lincoln, there were not enough PE sections to stay there all week, ending his itinerant work. While teaching at the different sites, he coached a variety of sports, including football, cross country, volleyball, girls swimming, wrestling, and track at Wilson, Eisenhower, and Davis. During his time at Barge Lincoln, Dave moved away from teaching physical education and began co-teaching third grade with Bob Oliphant. As a result of the double levy failure in 1998, Dave moved to Washington Middle School. While at Washington, he began working on his master's degree and administrative credentials. It was after this that he oversaw the After-School Learning Center grants for Barge Lincoln, Ridgeview, and Lewis and Clark. During this time, he also spent many weeks substituting for principals at Ike, Discovery Lab, Barge Lincoln, and Ridgeview. Dave began his administrative journey as an assistant principal at Lewis and Clark, where he spent 2 years. The following year, Superintendent Ben Soria suggested a move to Hoover as an elementary principal, where Dave spent 3 exciting years. In the spring of his 3rd year, Superintendent Soria provided another opportunity as the principal of Adams Elementary. During this time, he worked alongside staff to build a strong culture focused on student growth. After 3 years, school improvement required a change in leadership, and it was at this time Dave moved to Washington Middle School. Under Dave's leadership, a culture focused on collective, collaborative inquiry and student growth was cultivated. After 4 years at Washington Middle School, school improvement again required a change in leadership. Little did Dave realize at the time that opportunities ahead of him would be so fulfilling. The new Stanton Academy opened the same year, and Dave chose to move there. Stanton and the satellite programs, Ridgeview Group Home, Yakima County Juvenile Detention Center, Contract Education, and Education Opportunity Center gave Dave the chance to guide a group of educators whose work supports students whose needs require advocacy in so many ways. The last 9 years working with the students who came through Stanton and satellite programs have been some of the most rewarding of his career. Dave Chaplin. Thank you for everything, Dave. That concludes our recognition of retirees. And before we excuse them for a picture, I want to point out that they have collectively 817 years of service to the Yakima School District.
No wonder they have gray hair or no hair. Okay, we'd like to invite all of our retirees up for a group photo in the back in front of the blue banner. And then any family members that want to take individual photos of our wonderful people are welcome to do so. We will take a 5-minute break from the meeting to allow you to do that. And then any retirees that don't wish to stay for another meeting are free to go.
We start at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, okay. We'll start up again at 8 o'clock. Welcome back. We'll start with updates from members of the board, if we have any.
Go ahead, Mark. Yes, I just wanted to apprise the board that I have been invited and have accepted an invitation from NALEO to serve on an advisory group to develop the NALEO Health Policy Initiative, which are going to be kicking off in 2024. So I just wanted to apprise the board of that. So the initiative, so as an advisory board member or group member, I'll be able to help frame and shape the long-term objectives and really look at some best practices in programming to address the health needs of the Latino community. And so we'll be working on, focusing on 4 areas. One will be examining the health disparities, and that'll be a meeting in Phoenix, Arizona. So, and then there's the second area of focus is public health, and that'll be a meeting in Dallas, Texas. And let's see, health access, which will be in New York City, and then also looking at health funding, that'll be in Las Vegas. And NALEO will be covering all the costs, so I won't be requesting any travel approvals for the board. So, but I believe that they asked me to participate on this advisory group just with my background in mental health and crisis intervention or crisis counseling. So, and also, I believe that I can contribute based on the great work that the Yakima School District is doing in addressing the mental health needs of students, especially, coming out of COVID and or what we call the post-COVID and all the issues that we're dealing with. I know the initiative or the program, and I forget the terms that having to do with working with the local police department and identifying those incidents of domestic violence and so forth, because as I believe those are all our health issues. So, so I'll be be working with that, and just really again to help shape the policy, the initiative for the NALEO, and help to improve health for the Latino community, but also just to improve health for all our communities, right, in general. So I just wanted to apprise the board of my participation in that advisory group.
Congratulations on that new opportunity. Any other reports from the board?
I do. Congratulations, Raymond. That's quite an honor. Reminder to the board that I did turn in that one proposal that we approved at our last meeting. I got that turned in last week. And then we will be, the Washington State School Directors Legislative Committee will be discussing that this weekend at our meeting that's scheduled to start Friday afternoon and go all day Saturday. So it'll be a long weekend of Zooming. I was able to attend the HAP Scholarship Awards last week, and it was a nice celebration held at YV Tech. They recognized 21 students with a $1,000 scholarship each, and then there were 11 students that were recognized with a Central Washington University, go Wildcats, scholarship for there were 11 kids. They each got a $10,000 scholarship renewable for 4 years. So it's quite an accomplishment on behalf of our Hispanic students that are graduating this year. You're going to talk about the WASA Awards? Okay. Was that the week before last? Okay. We were able to attend the Washington Association of School Administrators South Central Region, in other words, the ESD 105, awards banquet a couple weeks ago. That provides an opportunity for school districts in the ESD to recognize folks in their district or through their partnerships that have benefited their school district. And typically they have folks everywhere from a local business to somebody that chaired their levy committee. I mean, it's the district's choice as to who they get to recognize. We were lucky enough to recognize our partnership with the police department and had Lieutenant Janice and Chief Murray were recognized, and they were represented by Captain Boyle. We also were able to recognize one of our students, Easton Green, for his role in advocating for schedule changes and policy changes at Eisenhower High School. So it was a wonderful evening, and I got to sit with Deputy Superintendent Darling and Lynn Green and Easton and the police captain, and it was very nice. Quite a recognition. And I think that's it.
Thank you. Any other reports from the board? Okay, thank you. I also attended the HAP recognition dinner, and then I had a nice evening. I sat with the Montalvo family from Davis and enjoyed a nice evening with them. So it really was a nice occasion. And I don't have any other updates at this point. Oh, I do have the Washington School Directors Association Resolutions Committee also meets next week, and we'll be dealing with the recommendations that have come in. The Resolutions Committee deals with permanent positions that the Directors Association takes. The Legislative Committee deals with positions to advocate in front of the legislature. So there's a slight difference there in the work that we do. Okay,
And we have the Director Area 8 dinner
That's right, that's coming up.
meeting on Thursday of this week.
Yeah,
So that will also be at YV Tech.
that's at YV Tech, and I believe
YV
that's
Tech has become our second home.
you and me, and I believe Trevor
Yeah, I
are
think.
attending.
I think so.
I think it's just the three of us. Yeah. So, moving on, we will have the updates from our superintendent, Dr. Green.
Thank you, President Walker. So many things to share this evening. I'd like to start out with our May character word of the month, which is reverence, is honor or respect felt or shown, and the trait is community and globally connected. En Spanish, respetuoso, sentir o mostrar honor o respeto y la característica conectado con la comunidad y el mundo. And also share then our equity definition, which is the condition that would be achieved if one's group membership no longer predicted in a statistical sense how one fares. Equity is the outcome, not just access to opportunity. And it's important to always surface our equity definition to be clear about the rationale. But also this evening, it's important because we have our student fellows here, which you see in our front row. And I want to thank them for their continued work around our Student Voice Committee or Council and the advice that they give in bringing many students together to assure that we are addressing inequities within the Yakima School District. And I believe this evening you'll hear some more of their work, and it will be related to the equity component of what has been a through line in our work. Since the item was serviced by Director Rice, I would also then just add on those awards that she referenced, the WASA SCR awards. There was a strong equity component with the student who was honored in that his work resulted in more equitable access at Eisenhower High School with the National Honor Society. So there was a discrepancy between both high schools in that you could attend Davis and not be, you could go to Davis and also the Skills Center and be a member of National Honor Society, where at Eisenhower, you could not do that. So we were denying access for students who had a schedule that involved YV Tech, and the student worked diligently to follow our equity policy and then address through policy the concerns, and reached an outcome that now allows our students to, at both schools, the same equitable access of involvement in National Honor Society, which results in recognition and scholarships and college entry. So it was no small feat on the part of the student. And then in addition, you all know the work of Handle with Care and the way that that outreach touches the lives of our students and prepares educators every day and administrators every day to be prepared for our students who experience the trauma of having an issue at home related to police involvement or police action. And that's happening within a 24-hour period. So those are two very important components. And I thank Director Rice for providing that entry point to share. I'm now going to pause and wait for that interpreter to catch up. Thank you, Dr. Darling. Yeah. All right. I apologize to Patty. At this point, I do want to acknowledge the efforts of our food service department. We have not recognized them for quite a while, but I do have information this evening to share with you that their work has resulted, as of May 11th of this month, a total of 1,317 meals being served. So thank you, Stacy, for your leadership in that department, Cassie Davidson for her leadership, and the hard work of all of our cooks this school year. Yes, this school year. Is that breakfast? All right, just breakfast. Okay. Thank you. Do we have the total for both, or? Okay, all right. You got me, I got you. So we need to get that total. So over 1 million breakfast meals, I would assume that we're probably getting close to 2 million then at some point. Although the breakfast is probably much more kind of something that is they partake of more often, yes?
We implemented this last August, the federal breakfast after the bell program, K-12. And so the goal was before the end of the school year was to hit 1 million meals. And we actually hit it May 11th, which is just phenomenal. So kids are really partaking of the extra effort behind having breakfast as they enter school. So yeah, very cool.
Fantastic.
Excellent work on the part
awesome.
of food service. They're amazing.
Yeah. I think you need to stay a little bit longer with us, Stacy. Good job. Other information to share with the board is that, of course, our HAP, we had the HAP celebration. Wonderful event. Thank you for those who attended. And the board did receive recognition that I'll pass around for you to view. So this was a nice certificate that was presented by the HAP board president and the HAP board vice president. And we're excited about our involvement as a district because the HAP program had reduced significantly in attendance over the course of the pandemic. And we're looking forward to building that back up into the event that it was at one point, where it was at the Yakima Convention Center, and it was quite a community event. But kudos to those who are keeping this alive and dedicating themselves to acknowledging our students. And we had, what, nine students with that $10,000 renewable 4-year Central Go Wildcats recognition scholarship. The other item that I would share with you this evening is the SSVC, or the Student Voice Council that I referenced earlier, did meet this week, and I was able to join their team and around 30 other students with Marcello Scambilleri as well leading that group. And they were able to engage in potential action projects that they will at some point bring before the board. The board is certainly aware of the equity policy that was unanimously supported by this board. And then also the student voice policy is in the works and will come before you at some point. So they've done tremendous work, and they're looking towards the future to make some significant changes to benefit students across our system. So I thank them for that continued work. And then lastly, we know that we have some of our valuable members here in the audience, and we can see the signs that are here. And one of the things that we certainly want to do is acknowledge all of the individuals and how our strategic plan and the way that we shift what we do in our district impacts them. So we're thankful for them expressing their displeasure with the signs that they're holding and making a statement. And we thank them for the continued work that they do on behalf of our students. And I'd like to pass this to Mr. Murrieta at this point to share some insight around what is currently happening with our YPTA members. Mr. Murrieta.
Thank you, Superintendent Green. Strategic goal plan, goal number 2 is to empower, connect, support, and engage. And for the 2022-2023 school year, Yakima School District employs 2 family liaisons and also the Community in Schools. Community in Schools has been funded using ESSER fundings or the COVID relief monies. And this year, our labor partner, YPTA, the Yakima Professional Technical Association, who represents the family liaisons position, had alerted us of a potential conflict where there's a crossover of work between the family liaisons and Community in Schools. So in order to align ourselves with strategic plan goal number 2, the district has made the decision to increase the family liaison position from 2 to 15 for the 2023-2024 school year, and we will no longer be utilizing Community in Schools. We have determined that family liaisons have a greater impact on reducing barriers to student educational success by connecting with students, parents, and the community. But with the loss of ESSER funding and an estimated 300 students less next year, we are forced to prioritize services, and therefore we are also reducing 1 multilingual advocate, 1 campus security monitor, and reducing the elementary data specialist from 16 to 4 positions. Of those remaining 4, we are creating 1 lead data specialist and the remaining 3 specialists they'll work together as a team. There are also positive impacts to the decision making, which are an increase of 2 behavioral tech positions, the previously mentioned data assessment lead, and an increase of 13 family liaisons. The problem that exists is that not all employees impacted by the reduction are qualified to fill the family liaison positions due to the requirement of all but 1 needed to be fluent in Spanish, where we have the greatest need to connect with the students' families. HR has been tasked by Superintendent Green to find employment opportunities for those impacted, ensuring that every employee can maintain employment. Our commitment to employees is to continue to work with their union leadership to find positions where the employee may earn a paycheck, health insurance, and continue with their retirement contributions. I want to thank HR Director Chris Miller, HR Program Manager Olivia Martinez, the YPTA Co-Presidents Margaret DeLong and Natalie, and I'm afraid I'm going to butcher your last name, Tinajero, and our WEA Mid-State Representative Will Oakes, who have been working to mitigate the impacts of our decisions. As of today, at roughly 4 p.m., we have 5 employees who have not accepted or received the position for next school year. We will continue to find vacant positions which these 5 employees may fill and reach an agreement with our labor partners where necessary to mitigate the financial impact to our dedicated staff. We recognize that right now hundreds of district employees are being riffed across the state and up and down the I-5 corridor. As state funding continues to squeeze districts across the state of Washington, we will continue to do everything within our power to ensure employees have employment opportunity. We may come to a day when this is not possible, but hopefully today is not that day. I hope to avoid having to appear before you next month to explain a layoff on next month's consent agenda. The report is intended to put the decisions into perspective and to update you on what HR is doing to mitigate the impact to our community. Any questions? More than happy to respond.
So just to clarify, the people that are losing the data specialist positions will have, if they accept it, a position somewhere in the district. Is that correct?
So we have multiple positions, more openings than we do the positions that are impacted. But we also have to mitigate the impact if, say, for instance, they're working an 8-hour job and they go into a 7, then again, we'll look to find solutions to ensure that they receive a paycheck similar to what they had before, and either other employment opportunities or work through cross jurisdictions. I think it's safe to say that they are hired as, and they have been working in a position that they want to hold on to. Sure. And from that perspective, I absolutely understand and am compassionate to where they're coming from, but we have to prioritize what services make the greatest impact. And with that, we will also recognize that there's an opportunity to mitigate the damages and ensure everybody can work.
And so along with that, no one will be receiving a pay cut.
They should not know.
And no one will be losing benefits. Is that correct?
Should not, no.
Okay.
We have had some individuals who have taken the opportunity to go into teaching or have chosen to substitute teach next year.
Okay.
And typically, a substitute teacher does not get benefits until they pass a certain threshold. But because they are our existing employee and there is always enough substitute opportunities, there is a continued expectation of employment, although in a different bargaining unit, and none of those employees would be impacted. And so the goal is to make sure that we maneuver this maze very carefully, but along with their union representatives to ensure that we don't inadvertently violate anybody's rights.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for? Okay.
Just a follow-up statement in that the changes that have been made are in alignment with the strategic plan that we have set forth. We've been tasked with following, and it's addressing the needs and supports of our district, and we're very grateful for the work of our HR department in assuring that people have the opportunity to maintain a position and salary. And I think it should be pointed out that in a time period where we've gone through some significant challenges, the largest of which has been the pandemic, we are one of and remain one of the few districts that did not reduce anybody, did not reduce force in any capacity. If you look at the surrounding districts, we've maintained employment for our workforce and continue to do so. So while things continue to be a dire situation in many districts, what's happening in our district is a result of our alignment to our strategic plan, and we will continue to plan moving forward to address our strategic plan and work to fend off any reductions that would happen because of loss of funding. Thank you. That's it.
Does that conclude your report?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on, we have our monthly financial update from Jay Cooper.
So good evening, I'm Jacob Cooper, the Executive Director of Finance. I'm giving you a financial update. Sorry, yes, sorry. I know you had to caution the superintendent, so I'm in good company this evening on my speech cadence. I'll have to slow down. As we talked about, this time of year, of course, is budget season, and was alluded to in the conversations around our changes in our labor force and its levels. Yakima does find itself in a very interesting position around the state. As Dr. Green talked about, we were one of the few districts that has not had to have wholesale reduction in force of teachers. My prior district, we lost 2,000 students, and I had to lay off a significant amount of the workforce following that. And it is not a fun thing to do, and something we don't take lightly. And I personally have been involved with many reduction in forces over the years. That's something I take very seriously as well as your chief financial officer. And the reason we find ourselves managing downward is that, as you can see from the start of the school year, we're now 115 below our projection. Next year, which will be basically October 1st to October 1st, I'm projecting us down nearly 300 students. That's just shy of $5 million in revenue. So before I even start the budget process, we have a $5 million hole that we have to fill. So, if we were break-even enrollment, would be at zero. We actually start in the basement. We're starting nearly $5 million in a deficit position. And so, managing upward is a lot more fun. Enrollment growth provides great opportunities for program. Managing downward is a disciplined and methodical, and unfortunately, it's not as much fun. And so we continue to manage downward as our enrollment drops, but we'll do so in a prudent and humane fashion as much as possible. I just wanted to add that in tonight. Of importance this evening in particular, so that is the graphical representation of the enrollment as we discussed, and you can see that it is about 115 below projection. As throughout the year, historically, Yakima, like many school districts, loses enrollment over time. Some of it is move out, some of it is drop out or attrition, or alternative educational opportunities. But for the most part, it is a fairly standard enrollment pattern around the state. Our budget to actuals, as you can see, if you look at April in particular, we are slightly lower than budget, which is where I would like us to be. And our payroll after our large retroactivity has leveled off and remains below our monthly projections. As I've been promising you, you can see that our cash is indeed creeping upward. And why it is taking this long is that when we transferred $5 million roughly in that January-February period for the construction of Davis into the Capital Projects Fund, we then have to we can supplant ESSER funding about $1.5 million a month. So you can see as each month goes on, we are gaining about $1.5 million more in our cash position. So by the end of the fiscal year, I believe we'll be very close to our projection, maybe slightly less, depending upon the timing of those large curriculum adoptions. So you just approved $2+ million in K-12 curricular adoptions. They will hit the books here in another 6 or 8 weeks, depending upon when they invoice. Those purchase orders are prepared after your action. So you will see some movement in cash there. But for the most part, that is anticipated. The ESSER 3 expenditures. So this is important. So I talked about the kind of that climb out of the basement in our cash. So you see we have about $7.1 million left in ESSER 3. And this is the funding, the more flexible portion. This is the 80%. We likely will have that fully expended and drawn down. So as you can see, that cash, we're about 7 or 8 million below projection now. There's just about 7 million and change in the ESSER 3 components. The encumbered amount covers the early learning, so that just over $10 million that has already been encumbered, and that is for the Early Learning Centers project. And then the remaining balance will allow us to put our cash right where we need to be by fiscal year end. So again, we're very fortunate that we've been able to have that ESSER funding to complete long time projects move the curriculum forward and do a significant amount of one-time work. And I believe Yakima should be very proud on how you spent almost $90 million in one-time federal money, which sounds amazing until you have to decide on how you're going to spend $90 million of one-time federal money, which is a good thing, but I believe we put it to work appropriately. And then the remainder, and Dr. Rodriguez is absent this evening, but again, you will see that encumbered amount will rise as the POs come in to fray the next month. And there still is a balance there. After the encumbrances move forward, there should be about 4.5 or 5 million left, which will round out some significant curricular purchases that are planned in the next 12 to 18 months. So overall, my office, we are in full budget mode, and Budget Jake is not as happy as pre-budget Jake, because ultimately during the few weeks that I need after the legislature's finished to do kind of a finite reconciliation, there's still a drumbeat of staff requests and other things. So Budget Jake has been saying no quite a bit, which we need to do. And the legislature was positive, as we spoke about last meeting. Not a significant amount of new revenue, some one-time savings that reduced our retirement contributions, which we talked about. Special education, though, there was positive movement there. So we picked up about $1 million in special education funding. But for the most part, IPD, special education, and the phase-in of the SEL from the second year of the last biennium will round out our funding. So all in all, I would anticipate as we get close to reconciliation of the budget, we will dive into fund balance next year. I don't know how much, but again, we're trying to build those reserves up to 8 or 10% so that we can spend down if we need to, and then we will monitor and manage it our next fiscal year. So that's kind of the overall treatise of the district when it comes to finances and enrollment and legislature. And then, of course, if there's any questions, I would be happy to take them.
Do we have a sense, Jake, as to if there is a specific area where we're seeing student loss?
Elementary.
Or is it just kind of all spread across?
Well, and over the years, I've had my enrollment projections questioned many times, and it is a projection, right? You are literally projecting the future using the past as a basis, a mathematical.
Please understand, I'm not questioning that.
But what's easy to see in your data, and next meeting I may bring a kind of an enrollment by cohort. It's pretty simple. We have 1,300 plus going out the top, and we have 1,000 coming in the bottom. So our K classes are around 1,000, and as you can see from your upper grade levels, they're around 1,300. And so every year as that goes through, it's not very hard to see that you're going to lose 200 or 300 kids unless something changes either demographically or on the housing side. And so, Superintendent Rectal talked about we lost 40,000 students during the pandemic. But then also that pandemic coupled with lower birth rates, state and nationwide, are really driving our K numbers down. So we're not an anomaly, but it is fairly easy to see if you look at your K5s, you have about 1,000 in your cohorts. We jumped up to 11 and change, kind of in that middle school, and then 1,300 or so on the top, and that's what's happening, Director Rice. It's small classes inbound and large ones out. So, yep. Any other questions on enrollment or budget team? Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jake. Next up, just a brief mention of calendar updates and future agenda topics. You can see the first item under graduation and celebration dates. Well, no, the regional meeting we mentioned already. The graduation and celebration dates are listed there for you. They're also on your shared calendar from the district, the superintendent's calendar. So there should be no question about when those are. And then the policy board meetings and events. Again, there's a document here that you can refer to refresh your memory on the board meeting schedule for the rest of the school year, and also the policy governance schedule is here. I don't think we need to address those individually, but are there any questions?
I do have a question. I know that it was addressed, it being the Regional 8 meeting at YB Tech on May 18th. And Barb did share that Martha, Director Rice, Director Walker are committed to attend. We want to make sure that we, if we're going to have a quorum, that we notify the public. So if you are planning on attending that May 18th date, please do reach out. We don't need to have you make that decision now, but if one of our other 3 directors plan on attending, please reach out to Barb and we'll make sure that we send out that notification. And as a reminder, it is important to, now that you have access to. I really want to emphasize this next point. It's important that we recognize that we now have a calendar with the board, that the board has access to, that shows all of the events that can be attended around the district. And again, there is the green indicator means that it's a go, that you can attend that we don't have a quorum. If it's red, obviously stop, we have a quorum. The catch is, though, you have to please reach out to Barb, because we might, it might be, you might put it over the top and inadvertently create a quorum situation if we're not communicating with Barb. So we love having you at events. We want to have you at anything that you would like to attend. We just don't want to get into a situation where we have 3 board members without having notified the public. So just any reminder on that. Red, stop, green, go, and please do call Barb to make sure that you can continue to attend whatever event it is. And there is no shortage. If you've gone over that calendar, you'll open it up and there are multiple items every night that can be attended, especially this time of year. So we're excited about the monitoring opportunities, as the board has expressed that desire to continue to monitor more closely some of the things that are happening. And that can be done through training sessions, through open house activities, events at schools, and other celebratory events also. So I just wanted to reiterate that.
And I would just translate a little bit there too. It doesn't come through on all calendars as green and red. On my Apple products, it comes through as orange and blue. So just be aware that you might have a different experience on your calendar, okay? So depending on your home technology. Okay, any other questions about calendars and any of those things? Okay, next up we have 4 students from our student fellows, our student advisory committee. We have Ezra Rotman, Luana Wang, Valeria Garcia, and a new member, Andrea Ceballos. And they're going to present to us a proposal that we create a Mental Health Week proclamation.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the board, superintendent, and district leaders. Always love to be here, and it's just an honor. Today, we'd like to share with you a project, a sort of action project that we've been working on that revolves around crisis among teens and among people, especially post-COVID, that was brought up earlier, which is mental health. What we'd like to do is to create an official week so that we, and this is something that our team and the Student Voice Council at large would be sort of organizing a mental health week for district-wide students and staff so that we can truly bring awareness and necessary conversations around mental health to the district. We do have a new member of our team. She would like to introduce herself.
Thank you. My name is Andrea Ceballos, and I did just join the team, 2 months ago? But so far, they're amazing, and I absolutely love this. As lead fellows and as students, we've seen how critical positive mental health has been in student success and well-being every day. In an age where social networks and media have transformed human connections and behavior, compressing our days with multiplied stress, anxiety, and insecurity, it's important that we make spaces to identify the good and move away from the bad so that students have support and can effectively work towards sustainable goals. And I will pass this to one of another lead fellow.
Yes, thank you for having me. So, recognizing and creating conversations about mental health in schools is crucial in students' lives, both inside and outside of the classroom. So, this is backed up by hard evidence. If you guys take a look at the evidence portion on the Mental Health Week proclamation briefing, you'll notice that CEE data shows that only 54% of surveyed students in Yakima District enjoy coming to school.
Hi, my name is Valeria Garza. Student Voice Council was formed during the pandemic, and mental health has been a priority issue with several recountable decisions, presentations, and action projects having happened over the past 3 years. And last year, we created a student-centered mental health resource toolkit for secondary students, and this spring, we've decided to push for an annually recognized week to recognize mental health and sponsor activities and events to support students grappling with the challenges they face in schools, building a better climate and culture. Our district-wide surveys had recently nearly 400 responses from students, with 70% favoring the month of May for the Mental Health Week. From this same survey, we received many ideas from students for ideas and activities for the Mental Health Week.
In recent years, we've made lots of progress as a district and I think as a society toward reaching an environment that prioritizes mental health and has more conversations about it. And we want to continue to make large strides towards this goal. Within our Student Voice Council, students have consistently ranked mental health as a top priority, not only for themselves, but what they think us as a student voice district and as the Yakima School District should push towards. With the support of the Board of Directors and the Superintendent and district leaders, we would like to create an official Mental Health Awareness Week beginning the first Monday of each May. And with that, I'm not exactly sure how this process would work, but we would like your official approval on that notion.
Does that conclude your presentation on that then?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so are you asking for action this evening, or are you asking it to be taken under consideration?
I believe we would, if possible, we would like action, but if needed, consideration.
Okay. So your proposal is that we have a mental health proclamation that comes from the district in the first week of May?
Yes.
Okay, do I hear a motion from any of the board members? It is on the agenda. It's right here.
So moved.
So it's been moved that we have proposed or produce a proclamation for Mental Health Week in the first week of May.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to have a mental health proclamation coming from the district. Any other discussion or questions from board members?
Just a comment, I want to thank the student council here for their advocacy for mental health. We all know it's such an important issue and challenge really for a lot of our students. And we've seen that come through the survey results that you all shared in other ways as well. So I'm really grateful that you are advocating for this kind of attention to mental health in our students. Thank you so much for this work.
I also want to congratulate this crew for all of their work and for the work of the rest of the Student Voice Council as well. I know that when I attended your meeting at Eisenhower, 2 months ago now, that was a pretty strong topic of discussion at that meeting. You know, everyone was concerned for the mental health of their fellow students. And to have to develop the plan and have the nerve to come and talk to the school board about it, you all are to be congratulated on all of the work that you've put in on this. And I want to thank you all for being here tonight and for continuing to share your passion for advocating for your fellow students.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Yes, I'd like to see if you could elaborate on that statement about creating new spaces for conversations. So I guess I'm not fully understanding how that is, because also there was a statement here about some deeper issues in the schools and also having some difficult conversations about race, gender, oppression, discrimination, and how that all relates to the Mental Health Awareness Week. So I'm just kind of, and again, the deeper issues, and so I'm just wondering how that's all going to help to improve the students' mental health challenges. I guess I'm not clear on how that all connects.
I believe that Director Navarro is referring to the CEE data that was cited and that connection. So I know that it was called out, the conversation component. So again, the connection to mental health.
Pull it up. Well, we did actually find some study in the ACT in 2020 that indicated that people of BIPOC, particularly Black students, are less likely to be able to reach out to a teacher for mental health support related to students from other demographics, and that through equity, students do not feel as comfortable yet to access the services that schools do provide for mental health awareness. And by promoting a mental health week, all sorts of students from any sort of demographic or background could feel comfortable in approaching these services or these toolkits and feel that they themselves can engage with it because it isn't as promoted. So they don't have all the resources as other students may have. So by making it that all of this information can be put into 1 week, it would be easy for other students to listen to and to engage with, and it makes them more involved with the school and with that mental health itself, which does promote better attendance, better engagement with their teachers and their peers, and overall better grades, which makes for a better education.
So just to follow up, so, and I'm just want to be transparent, just with you, and if you could do that with me as well. So we just heard a budget report that we have ESSER funds of in excess of $6 million for mental health services. So am I hearing from you that that's not enough? Or the services that are being provided in the school district are not enough? Or do we need, is it more a promotion or access? Or I guess I'm not clear on what the deeper issue is, I guess.
Well,
it's more of a proclamation.
I think before you answer that, I just want to clarify that what our CFO shared around the 6 to 7 million of ESSER funding was not specifically targeted for mental health components. So I'm asking him to, if you'd please stand and clarify.
Well, that's, excuse me, Superintendent,
Okay.
it does say in the report that that was set aside for mental health. If you go back to that, I forget what page it was. So I'm just wondering, I'm just trying to connect. Yes.
Yeah, the 7 million that is allotted there, that balance, what is that earmarked for? I don't think it's specifically tagged for anything at this moment.
No, those funds are being supplanted, meaning we are using current expenditures to rebuild our cash reserves, as we talked about. So each month we claim a portion of allowable costs per the ESSER grant. And so we're using current expenditures and then supplanting those funds, which is allowable, not, supplant when using in federal grants, you would hear that would.
So number two, we're not actually using that money for that, is what you're saying?
Well, I'm only commenting on the top line, which is this one totals from the top down, which is kind of odd. There's 684,000 allocated for that.
For what? Yeah, I understand that, but I'm just wondering what, to me, when I see number 2, it says that we had 6.1 million for physical, mental health, and well-being supports.
Okay, can I interject for a moment here? I think we're moving away from the intent of the student presentation. The intent is to ask for a proclamation.
Yeah.
It's not asking for budget. It's not asking for program. It's asking for a proclamation to bring attention to mental health issues that are occurring, that they see occurring with their peers. So their proposal is not asking at this point for change in budget or those things from the district. They merely want to have a proclamation made from the district that recognizes that mental health issues are occurring with students, and they would like to see that brought forward so that students will access the services that are there. Is that my understanding of your proposal?
And I excuse me, and I do understand that, and I just made reference to that, and my question was, with everything, maybe I could rephrase my question, is the current mental health services in the district not enough?
Director Navarro, I'd like to speak to the fact that we're not saying that it's not enough, but the purpose of our mental health week would be to bring awareness to those services and open conversations and dialogues that a lot of those students, and we don't like to believe it, but many students who even don't come to counselors or don't use the support that $7 million is allocated to, don't use the support because they feel scared or they're unsure and it's not normalized.
Yes.
So
Well, thank you for clarifying that. That's what I wanted to understand better.
Absolutely.
So thank you. Appreciate it.
So, and to go back on your question, something that ASB does at school is that not only do we try to make school fun for kids and make different activities, but we also try to educate in the process. And at Davis, we're doing, since it is Asian Pacific Islander Month, we're doing a week and we're dedicating different days to educate people about Vietnam and China and Japan, and we're making activities to not only get people involved with the culture, but also educate students. And having a mental health week would give us the opportunity to say, look, here are your resources, and also being able to hopefully get kids to talk to counselors, because like Ezra said, not a lot of kids want to go to their counselor, you know what I mean? Not everybody has that connection per se with the counselor that they feel like they're assigned to. So having a mental health week will give us the opportunity to not only further show kids like this is here for you guys, but also open that door for kids to go in and actually feel like, oh, I am being seen. And another thing, it's at Davis, it's okay to not be okay is a big thing. We have posters all around Davis about it. And that's something that, I think Connor made that, right? That it's okay to not be okay. Yeah. Someone who isn't here, his name is Connor, and he was a big part of the It's Okay to Not Be Okay. And just having that mental health week and recognizing that will make kids understand, oh wow, so this is being talked about. We are being seen, because mental health is a big thing, especially in high school and middle school. So that's why we are asking for that mental health week.
So, and I just want to say I appreciate the explanation. That helps me to understand what you're asking for, because you did ask for, or you did identify some concerns, that are possibly happening in the district. So, and again, I wasn't trying to make any budget changes or anything like that. I'm just trying to connect all of the dots. You know, as policymaker, we have to look at the complete picture, not just one component. So I do appreciate it, and I do fully support this request.
Thank you for your comments and your questions. Any other comments or questions?
I'm wondering if you can share with us some of the activities that you all have planned for the Mental Health Awareness Week.
At Eisenhower, from the Eisenhower perspective, for our leadership as a part of ASB, we have been trying to create awareness by connecting through teachers and staff members to pass out one of our projects, these stars that start with I am, so that each student can identify something positive within themselves. And with each positive star that we collect, we put it on this big poster in the front of the office so that when every student walks in or staff member or parent can see all of the positive and beautiful things that students believe in themselves, and that they can see these things and walk by them every day and acknowledge that these are the positive impacts that other people see in them and not just in themselves. So that's just one of the projects. Oh, also.
Also, right now we have announcements for Mental Health Week. We have a administration, and it's like it goes over announcement towards the end of the school day, and it's like breathe in, telling like practicing kind of like patience and also kind of letting that stress out. So we're having that over the announcement speaker, and we've seen a lot of students kind of take the time to reflect upon themselves and kind of what their day's been like. And I see a lot of stress reducing moments that come about from these.
And then at Davis, one thing that we did last year was in ASB, they made sticky notes during testing week, during finals, because kids are always stressed during finals. And they put them all in the bathrooms. And I remember going into the bathrooms and seeing the sticky notes like, oh dear, what are all these sticky notes about? But after reading them, and they're just saying like, you got this, just breathe, don't overthink it. It's stuff like that during finals week made me feel, okay, you know what, I do got this. I could totally pass this test. I'm gonna do great. And that's something that I definitely want to bring back for Mental Health Week, because just those little things do so much for students. And having that acknowledgement is just gonna be much more better for next year. So.
Thank you. We still have a motion on the floor.
If I
one
may,
more comment. Okay.
Those are some of the great ideas that we've done so far in our schools. And just speak to the student voice part of it, we have sent out a survey district-wide to students. We've already received over 400 responses. And one of the questions is for them to suggest ideas for activities that we could do during a potential mental health week. And so we've received many ideas that we would use from there.
Thank you. Nice work. Okay, any other questions, comments?
Mr. President,
Yes.
I appreciate the presentation, certainly support the proclamation, and I call the question.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any other comments? Okay, Barb, would you call the roll, please?
Director Beckett,
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva,
Aye.
and President Walker.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Look forward to what we come up with next May.
Thank you.
I also have to say that when I see this group of students in front of me, it's always good for my mental health. So thank you for being here.
We enjoy being here. Thank you.
Next up, we have comments from the public on agenda items. Do we have any commenters? Okay. It'd be a second session. Well, this was talked about in, yeah, we can do a comment now. Yeah, because it was on the agenda. This is from YPTA. Yeah, so yeah, we addressed the agenda item. Okay. So I'm assuming you've read the guidelines, and okay, so I'm not going to read those again for you. And you have 3 minutes. And you are Linda Gomez or Valerie Williams?
I am Valerie Williams.
Okay, thank you.
Kirko.
Welcome.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. So my name is Valerie Williams. I am
This is my 10th year with the district and with YPTA. I am currently the treasurer of YPTA. I am a guidance specialist at Eisenhower. And he kind of stole my thunder, but I'm going to go ahead with my comments here. Right now, as you already heard, the Yakima Professional Technical Association is going through some hard times with some of these job eliminations. So I'm here, I was asked to share our thoughts to represent our union. So YPTA members often develop meaningful connections with students, providing a sense of familiarity, comfort, and trust. When these positions are eliminated, the loss goes beyond the loss of a job. It disrupts the continuity and personal touch that support staff bring to the school communities. Students may feel disconnected and struggle to find the support they once relied upon, hindering their emotional well-being and academic success. The absence of these trusted figures can lead a void that cannot be easily filled. The elimination of support staff positions places an immense burden on those who remained, mainly the teachers, who already balance numerous responsibilities. Many or may find themselves taking on additional duties they were previously handled by support staff. This increase of workload can lead to frustration, fatigue, burnout, and a compromised ability to deliver quality instruction. With limited time and resources, the holistic development of students may suffer as educators are stretched thin, struggling to meet the needs, both academic and non-academic aspects of the students' lives. Position elimination also creates an atmosphere of uncertainty, anxiety, and low morale among the remaining staff. Witnessing colleagues lose their jobs without the security of their own positions instills fear and apprehension. The resulting decline in morale can reverberate throughout the school, negatively affecting the overall climate and culture. Collaboration, teamwork, and a sense of belonging may diminish, eroding the foundation upon which a thriving educational environment is built. So as you already heard, right now it's slated for about 15 positions to be eliminated. 13 data specialists, which include 2 nominees for the Shining Star, one a winner of the Shining Star, but her position has been eliminated now. And yes, there are some new positions that have been created, but due to some pretty specific requirements and training, there's still a few, several of our members who may not even qualify for those positions and would have to look elsewhere outside of our union to take hourly cut, just a different schedule. It's kind of really disheartening. And the last thing, this is just kind of on a personal note, we want to address kind of the unprofessional.
President Walker, the time is up.
Okay, I'm sorry, your time is up.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
You can complete the sentence you were.
Okay, yeah, I just had one sentence. Unprofessional and discourteous way they were, manner in which these members were told of their job elimination over a group, Zoom, or Google Meet.
Okay. Thank you for your comments and for being here tonight and for your work for the district. Thank you.
And thank you for allowing me to come speak.
Okay. And next up we have Linda Gomez.
I'm kind of nervous. I haven't done this before. My name is Linda Gomez. I'm one of the data specialists that lost their job. I work at MLK, and I've been with the school district for 16 years plus. The jobs that were listed for us to take, I am one of those that are unable to accept any of those jobs due to not being a bilingual. I am a Native American, and as we had grown up, we were taught to speak English. My ancestors had to do it. My grandmother, my mother, and I. Now I am forced to learn how to speak another language in order to provide for my family. And it feels like it's going into a circle again, having to be Native American, having to learn another language and forget about our English language and our own native language. My children are having to learn how to speak bilingual language in order for them to provide a job. I'm not trying to offend anybody, but this is part of being a Native American, having to struggle and make sure we can survive, to feed our family, to have a roof over our head, and live a good life. And it's hard for us Native American to be successful because they don't give us that opportunity. And I had to prove in myself over and over again that I am a good person. I love being a data specialist, and I feel bad for those that are data specialists that are not bilingual and they have to make their own choices too. When we heard the meeting through Zoom, we were all shocked. I was sad, I cried. I felt bad for the data specialists that were just hired because they worked for the district doing something else, and they went into being a data specialist, and now they hear from Zoom, hey, you guys lost your job, sorry. Now you gotta find something else. That's all I want to say. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you for your comments. You will receive a letter. We don't comment at meetings on public comments, but you will receive a letter from the board following up with your presentation. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. We have approval of minutes of April 18th and April 24th meetings, notification of approval of warrants for April of 2023, and approval of personnel actions. So is there any board member that sees the need to pull a consent agenda item to discuss?
We also have budget status reports for April. Is that on the consent agenda as well?
Yes, it is. I hadn't scrolled down far enough yet. Thank you.
Mr. President, I move that we approve tonight's consent agenda.
No, second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any other further discussion or comments? Okay, Barb, would you call the roll, please?
Director Beckett?
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.?
Aye.
Director Rice?
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva?
Aye.
President Walker?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
We now have a second opportunity for comments from the public. Are there any other members of the community that would have a desire to speak? Don't believe so? Okay. Okay, moving on to our policy governance items. First one up, global executive constraint, policy 1000.2.0. Okay, the entire board was found that the superintendent reasonably interpreted the provisions of the policy. On rating the level of compliance with Section 2 of Global Executive Constraint, the board indicated that 3 members of the board indicated the superintendent is compliant, and 2 members indicated that the superintendent is making sufficient progress with no additional comments. Nobody indicated non-compliance. On question 5, based on planning for this report, the board determined the monitoring for this policy would be external monitoring, and that the external report would consist of the annual auditor's audit at a minimum. So it doesn't preclude other types of monitoring. For the future is the auditor's audit at a minimum, still the appropriate source of external monitoring. 4 members of the board agreed. 1 member would like to see some different or additional monitoring sources. So would anyone like to comment at this time?
That was my comment. I'm, I guess not sure of the purpose of the question within the survey. Why we're asking, I guess, whether that one at a minimum report is appropriate. Can we just take it out since there are multiple sources that are used?
Are there multiple sources that are used?
I think there's multiple sources that were listed in the superintendent's monitoring report.
Okay. At a minimum, that was in there from the beginning, that comment, that particular item. And since the policy set, or the question is about the auditor's report and findings, if there are any, at a minimum, I'm not sure why we would want to take that out.
I guess at a minimum, to me, would indicate that they could choose to present that report only, because we said it's okay at a minimum, that's the sole and only report that's considered for that, the evaluation of that policy. I don't think it would be at a minimum appropriate to relying on that one policy. I think multiple data sources should be used.
Okay. Do we want to take a look at the language in the policy?
We could. I don't know that that question or that statement is in the policy. I'm not remembering exactly what the policy says. It seemed to me it was a question that was added as part of the survey, asking the board, does this report make sense? If it is in the policy itself, then yeah, we could take a look at that.
Okay.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve the report?
I move approval of the monitoring report for 1000.2.0 global executive constraint.
Mayor, second.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the report. Any other questions or comments?
There were some additional responses included on the survey that I think are important to point out. Question 10 on page 10 has a good-sized paragraph there, and then I provided additional comments on question 11, page 11 as well, recommending that the superintendent develop a compliance monitoring system for all of our federally and state-funded programs to ensure that we have transparency and checks and balances built into the monitoring and compliance of those programs.
Do we want to offer some, do you want to seek some clarity on that for us, Jake?
Sure. What do you have in mind?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
in that regard, I mean, because federal programs are highly, our compliance requirements from the feds are very prescriptive as is when it comes to compliance, along with other state funding as well. So I would be happy to go through that in detail with the board or a specific board member if need be, but whatever you have in mind on.
I know that President Walker and you meet and I meet once a month. I mean, that's something that perhaps we could
Yeah, I think
coordinate.
in terms of special education monitoring, they're built in federal compliance things that are already.
I guess it's not really just limited to the financial compliance pieces, but compliance overall in the programmatic requirements where there's been some failings in the past that I think need to have closer monitoring and checks and balances put in place.
I got you now.
Okay.
Took me a moment. Thank you.
Agreed.
So I would concur with her in terms of, and I don't want to get too much details because this was discussed in executive session, and the superintendent is currently conducting, I think, a program review and looking at some changes or improvements. So there may or may not have occurred any violations or what this policy addresses. So I think I would like to wait until if we get a report on what actually occurred perhaps, and then what corrective actions have been taken place, and if there was any non-compliance issues, then how are those taken care of, and how are we progressing towards, if we're out of compliance, are we progressing towards becoming or getting those programs into compliance with this policy?
Okay, that said, it's been moved and seconded to accept this report. Are we going to, any other questions or comments? Okay, Barb, would you call the roll, please?
Director Beckett?
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.?
Aye.
Director Rice?
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva?
Aye.
President Walker?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Next up, we have Policy 1000.2.1, Treatment of Students and Their Parents and Guardians. The board is unanimous in their finding that the superintendent is compliant in all areas. So I would just entertain a motion to accept this report.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to accept the report on policy 1000.2.1. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Barb, call the roll, please.
Director Beckett?
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.?
Aye.
Director Rice?
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva?
Aye.
President Walker?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, next up we have policy 1000.2.2, working environment of staff. Again, I believe the board is unanimous in their finding that the superintendent was compliant in all areas. So do I hear a motion to accept this report?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to accept the report on 1000.2.2. Any questions or comments? Barb, call the roll, please.
Director Beckett?
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.?
Aye.
Director Rice?
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva?
Aye.
And President Walker?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, moving on to policy 1000.2.3, financial conditions and activities reasonable. And I believe, again, if I recall, the board was unanimous that we were compliant, or the superintendent. The superintendent was compliant in all areas. And yes, that is the case. So do I hear a motion from the board?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the report on policy 1000.2.3. Any other discussion? Barb, call the roll, please.
Director Beckett?
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.?
Aye.
Director Rice?
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva?
Aye.
President Walker?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
And last but not least, we're up on policy 1000.2.4. And again, I believe we were compliant in all areas. And that is the case.
Move to approve 1000.2.4.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve 1000.2.4. Any other comments?
Yes, I was the board member that did not respond to the survey, and that was an error on my behalf. I thought I had completed and pressed send, and I guess I did not do it.
That
Yes.
doggone send button, right?
Well,
Otherwise, it would be a 5-0.
that means you have to bring snacks to the next board meeting.
Sure.
Second that. I amend the motion to.
Okay. Okay, so it's been moved, seconded. Barb, would you call the roll, please?
Director Beckett?
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.?
Aye.
Director Rice?
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva?
Aye.
President Walker?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. Is there a need for executive session this evening?
There is not a need for executive session.
Okay.
I do have a final share, though.
You okay?
Just a reminder that there was a document shared in the superintendent update about an art exhibition in the Kiva. That is May 17th through 25th from virtually all day, 8 a.m. to 3:30. If you want to see the artwork at Davis, again, May 17th through 25th. And then just the last comment that I wanted to share. You moved out of this session before I could address one final thought, and that was around our student group. And I want to thank Director Navarro for surfacing the CEE data question, because I know that, equity and discrimination, oppression, gender, those conversations have surfaced quite frequently in our board. And I appreciate you surfacing that, because the way that it was presented by our students indicates that that may be something that is addressed in their mental health week, that there will be conversations about how gender plays out, race, oppression, and I just wanted that to be clearly expressed, and I thank you for surfacing that question to the students. So that's final comments.
And I would like to just follow up on that one too with the student presentation, in that very often students that are part of groups that are minority groups or less popular groups, or in a sense marginalized types of groups who sometimes need the kind of mental health services that are offered, won't seek them out because they don't feel safe. And you probably know that as a mental health worker yourself. So the fact that students are willing to take the bull by the horns and say, we need to find ways to get our students to seek out the help that is there, because sometimes students won't go do that on their own. So it's neat that I really commend them for bringing that issue forward of trying to create some safety around seeking help.
And I just want to make a last comment on there. I do want to apologize to the board if I ruffled any feathers or did anything to upset the board. It wasn't my intent in regards to my question on the budget. One of the things with the student voice group is that they're going to voice their concerns, right? And they're going to identify any gaps or anything that they feel that is missing in terms of services. So I appreciate their voice. I appreciate all the work that they're doing. And again, I just want to better understand what they're presented to us. And they did a real good job in helping me to do that.
Okay, thank you. Any other final comments, questions? Kudos? Okay, thank you all for being here tonight. It's nice to have a full quorum. It was a long meeting, but we got a lot done. Goodbye. Oh, would you like to swing the gavel? Snack was it, huh?